Hi, let's read an English text together. Let's see if we can improve our vocabulary, our understanding of grammar, and our ability to comprehend any text in English from our reading. So, let's read. Here you have the text on your screen ready. Now, whenever you find the text ready on your screen to be read, pause the video. Read at least for once on your own and then come back and play the button again to see how I read the text for you. Also check out if my way of reading the text helps you to understand the text better. I hope you have done your reading. So now it's my turn. Hear me out. I was traveling in a bus. It was a bitterly cold night, and even at the far end of the bus, the east wind cut like a knife. The bus stopped, and two women and a man got in together and filled the vacant places. The younger woman carried a little Pekingese dog. The conductor came in and took their fares. Then his eye rested on the beady-eyed dog. I saw trouble coming up. This was the opportunity for which the conductor had been waiting, and he intended to make the most of it. I had marked him as the type who had a general vague grievance about everything. He seemed to have a particular grievance against passengers who came and sat in his bus while he shivered at the door. Do you find my reading helpful? Okay, now it's time to discuss the narrative. Well, you already have noted the first person narrator, and so the narrative must be a first person narrative. Now, in case of first person narratives, often we tend to think that the author himself or herself is the narrator. It's true only if the text is an autobiographical text. All first person narratives are not autobiographical. So if you don't know a first person narrative to be autobiographical in particular, don't just assume that the author is the speaker or the narrator in the text. You get my point clear? Before we dive deep into the text for meaning, let's discuss the vocabulary and grammar part first so that we get a good grip over the meaning of the text when we attempt to find it, right? So let's begin. I was traveling in a bus. Don't you find this preposition in here interesting? Normally, we would have said, I was traveling by bus, right? So, why do we have the preposition in here? Maybe it's a way to say, to let us know that the narrator was traveling and he or she was in a bus, particularly in the time he or she is referring to. Do you get the point now? I was traveling in a bus. It was a bitterly cold night, and even at the far end of the bus, the east wind cut like a knife. You know, past continuous and simple past are used together to refer to actions that took place during some other action going on. Let me explain. Say, for example, last night I was reading a book. I was reading a book. I'm referring to some action using continuous aspect. Suddenly, the doorbell rang. Now here in the second sentence, I am using indefinite or simple aspect. So it is to be understood that when I was reading, the doorbell rang. The ringing of the doorbell occurred when my reading was going on. I hope you get this now, right? Let's discuss the phrase a bitterly cold night. A bitterly cold night, a noun phrase with a head noun, night. How was the night? Cold. How cold was the night? Bitterly cold. So bitterly here, as per the traditional grammar or conventional or old school grammar, functions as an adverb. It's basically an intensifier, way of saying very cold. It's bitterly cold means it's very cold. Do you get my point? It is to be kept in mind that we don't use bitter or bitterly as intensifiers in every context, right? It might be an interesting activity to try to find out in which context do you find bitter or bitterly being used as either an adjective or an adverb. By the way, I'm pretty sure you have noticed that bitter is the adjective form and we add the ly suffix as usual to get the ad- adverb bitterly, right? Even is a very important linker. Let's see how this linker has been used in here. It was a bitterly cold night, and even at the far end of the bus, which is obviously supposed to be more sheltered, more protected because it is inside the bus, far away from the door, the east wind cut like a knife. So note, the second part of the sentence is justifying the first statement and even marks the beginning of the justification. Parallelly, we can say it was a very difficult question and even our first boy couldn't answer it. You get my point clear? The second part of the sentence, even our first boy couldn't answer it, is justifying the first statement, right? It was a very difficult question. Now, vacant is a very common adjective. It means empty, noun, vacancy, right? And yeah, sometimes, we might even use the word vacant in very interesting context. Like we might say, uh, he got a vacant look. Find out the meaning. If you don't get it, use internet. Internet is certainly a very important tool for us when it comes to learning. Like, I would just say Pekingese dog, Pekingese, a particular breed of dog. Now, obviously, I could have inserted some images here, but I decided to leave the job upon you. If you are interested, go and browse the internet to find images of Pekingese dog if you don't know how they look. Now, let's take up the word fare. F-A-R-E. If we are using this word as noun, it's the price paid while traveling by bus, train, right? Again, it might also mean the range of food as served in restaurants, right? But if you use the word as a verb, it refers to performance. Like I can say, I didn't fare well in my last exam. You get my point clear? That means I didn't perform well in my last exam. And I would also like to point out about the collocation took their fares. So when it comes to passengers, they pay their fares or they buy their tickets. When it comes to the conductors, they take the fares or they sell the tickets to the passengers, right? So try to remember these usages and collocation. Now, if fare, fare has got another homophone, similarly sounding word, fare, but they are not homographs. It's spelled differently. FAIR. Now, if AIR fair, I'm referring to item number 7.2. If we use this word as an adjective, it might mean beautiful or whitish or pale. It might also mean right and justified. So note the range of meaning. If I use the word as as the word that means beautiful, I can say my fair lady. Now, if I am referring to pale or whitish tone, then I can say his skin color is quite fair. Again, I can say, if I want to mean right and justified, it's not fair that a single word should have so many different meanings, right? Now, we can also use the word as a noun. Yes, it's certainly a little bit complicated, but not that difficult if you pay attention. When we use this word as a noun, that means right and good. So I might remind you about the famous quote from Shakespeare, fair is foul, right? So fair, noun, right. A festive gathering, that might be another possible meaning of the same word, right? We will be visiting the fair, the seasonal fair this month or this week, whatever sounds more reasonable, right? So pay a little bit of attention to this word fair. Uh, it might appear to be a little bit tricky, but if you pay attention, I am pretty sure it won't trouble you much in the future, right? Next, his eyes rested on. Simply, he saw or he noticed the beady-eyed dog. Now, bead, noun, it means glassy, round object, right? Sometimes, they have decorative beads strung up together in the form of a necklace to be worn, right? Now, beady adjective that looks like a bead. Simple. Trouble coming up. That's a wonderful phrase to use. It means trouble arising, coming up to arise. The opportunity for which the conductor had been waiting. Now, this is something very important for us to discuss. We wait for our turn, our chances, our opportunities. So please remember the collocation. We wait. We wait for our turn, chance, and opportunity. Intend. Intend, normally used as a regular verb, it means to wish. I intend to help you to learn the language. I mean, the English language, right? Make the most of, to utilize fully. You should watch this video again and again to make the most of it, to utilize this session fully. Was that helpful? Next, I had marked him as the type. Again, it's important to note the collocation. When we mark somebody as a type, we actually categorize, right? I mark you people as bright future citizens of the world. General is a very interesting word. When we use this as an adjective, it means common or not well defined. But if you use the word as a noun, it refers to some high ranking military official. Vague, normally used as an adjective, means not very clear. He came up with some vague excuse, means he said something as his excuse, but it was not very clear. Grievance, noun, means complaint. Shiver, regular verb, normally used as a regular verb, means to shake unwillingly. You cannot control when you shiver, right? When you shake, then obviously you can control your movement. But if you shiver, you cannot control. And we shiver mostly due to fear or anxiety or cold. Now I am pretty sure that you are almost sure about the meaning of the part of the text that we have read. Still, to fine tune our understanding, let's answer these questions. First, pause the video again, try to answer the questions on your own, and then play the video to see if you have answered the questions correctly or not. If you have a doubt, if you are confident about your own answer, but if you see that I have answered differently, you can always contact me down there in the comment box below. First question. How many characters have we come across in this text? Easy, right? I'm sure all of you have done this correct. We have come across 5 human characters in this text: the narrator, the conductor, 2 women, and the man, and a dog as well. Didn't you count the dog? Why? Okay, now the next question. How was the weather on the night referred to? Yes, the weather on the night referred to was very cold and windy. I'm sure you haven't missed the east wind cutting like a knife, right? Yes, so I have summed up that part as the weather being windy. How was the narrator traveling? The narrator was traveling by bus. Who boarded the bus as it stopped? A man, a lady, and a younger woman with a dog boarded the bus as it stopped. Next, when did the conductor notice the dog in the bus? The conductor noticed the dog in the bus after he came in and took the fares from the passengers. Question number 6. How had the narrator marked the conductor already? Be careful while you attempt to answer this question. Yes, the narrator had marked the conductor already as a Grumbletonian. Who is a Grumbletonian? Someone who has a general vague grievance about everything around. Yes, they are very difficult to please and they are not at all friendly. Now, this leads us to the next question. Why do you think the narrator had marked the conductor as a habitual complainer or a Grumbletonian? Now, this is my guess. The narrator had boarded the bus earlier and possibly had marked the conductor as a habitual complainer by observing him interacting with other passengers while being there. Do you get it? And our next question would be, why do you think finding a pet dog inside a bus might trigger a trouble? Now, carrying pets in public vehicles is often restricted or limited in many countries for the convenience of the other passengers, of course. Maybe it was not allowed to carry a pet dog where, the narrator was traveling. Do you have any other explanation to this? Now I think it's time to continue reading, right? I'm sure you have got a good grip over the meaning of the earlier text. So now let's read further. Hear me out minutely. You must take the dog out, he said. I shall certainly do nothing of the kind. You can take my name and address, said the woman. She had evidently expected the challenge and knew the reply. You must take the dog out. That's my order. I won't go on the top of the bus in such weather. It would kill me, said the woman. Certainly not, said her lady companion. You have got a cough as it is. It's nonsense, said her male companion. Time to discuss vocabulary and grammar again to get a good grip over the meaning. Herein, I would like you to learn a new word, conflict or confrontation means fight, right? Here we have come across a conflict or a confrontation, right? Now we will be making note of a few words that are being used, right? And certainly the tone. Tone carries meaning. It's very important when it comes to the meaning of a text, right? You must take that dog out. Must, right? So there you have the note of compulsion, authoritative, right? I shall certainly do nothing of the kind. Certainly, countering must, right? Counter authoritative, right? Nothing of the kind. It means nothing like that. So I'm not going to do anything like that you are suggesting. You can take my name and address. How's the tone? Rebuttal, right? Challenging back, defying authority, right? And we have got the word evidently. Obviously, this is an adverb that means clearly. Evident is the adjective form. We get the adverb form by adding the suffix ly. Evident plus ly, evidently. And evident means clear. It's evident means it's clear. Evidently, I have made this clear, right? And the noun form of the word is evidence, proof that makes things clear. You must take the dog out. That's my order. So earlier, the conductor's must got nullified with the woman's certainly not. And now we have the conductor adding another authoritative phrase. That's my order. So that means being stricter than earlier, right? Now it's time to see something very interesting. What does the lady say now? I won't go on the top of the bus in such weather. Refusal, right? But now comes the explanation as well. So it's not just a refusal. The lady is trying to rationalize her refusal. It would kill me, obviously referring to the cold weather, right? So why do you think the lady who began by just retaliating back, defying the conductor, thought about rationalizing her point? Food for thought, right? Certainly not. Again, we have got another interesting phrase, right? It's referring to so much of emphasis like must, and then again followed by some rationalization. Why not? You have got a cough as it is, right? You have got a very bad cough. But that was the lady, maybe a little bit polite to rationalize her denial. What about the male companion? It's nonsense. Don't you find this quite arrogant? No explanation? So now it's time to answer a few questions to test our comprehension, right? Question number 9. Would you agree if I say that the conductor was rude in his way of asking the lady to take her dog out? Well, I'm not going to answer to this question, right? Because I have already said that the conductor was rude in his way of asking the lady to take her dog out. I need to hear you out, so drop your answers down in the comment box below. Question number 10. Do you agree to the idea that rudeness triggers conflict? Yes, again. I think rudeness triggers conflict. But what about you? You need to answer. I'm asking for specifically your opinion, and therefore I won't answer question number 9 and question number 10 here on your screen. Right? So we move on to question number 11. This is a very interesting activity. You must take the dog out. Can you make these words a bit polite for the harsh conductor? Yes, I certainly can. I'm afraid you have to take the dog out, ma'am. My way of asking the lady to take her dog out. Do you have any other way? Well, you can just say uh, sorry instead of afraid. Like, I'm sorry, I have to ask you to take the dog out, ma'am, is also uh, an appropriate way to ask. How did the lady retort back? Easy, right? The lady retorted back saying she wouldn't comply. She wouldn't do what she had been told to do. She also told the conductor that he could take her name and address. Now, why do you think the lady offered the conductor her name and address? Interesting question, right? The lady probably offered the conductor her name and address as the very common strategy of denying some authority by posing to belong to some even higher authority. What do I mean? So, when you are curbed by some authority, if you are unwilling to agree, then obviously you try to get free of that curb, right? Then you need to belong to some authority which is higher than the authority that is trying to curb you. So, take my name and address is nothing but a challenge back, to pose as if, where I do belong. I do belong to some great authority who is obviously much higher than your authority. So once you take my name and address, you will certainly understand this and you will let me go free. And now we come to this particular question, taking cue from the earlier question, rather earlier answer. She had evidently expected the challenge and knew the reply. Why is this always the stock reply? If you ask me, this is always the stock reply, for it mostly works, as our society is run more by authority than by rules and rationality. So, even when we are trying to implement rules, we need to keep in our mind that we must let the authoritative people go free. Rules are meant for the common people, not for the powerful people, right? Unfortunate. It's unfortunate, but it's how our society still works. So most people, they have learned to fake, right? To pose as if they belong to some great authority. Question number 15. Do you think that the lady tried to back her stand up with reason later only because she found the conductor firmer than the others? So, what I ask is, uh, the lady couldn't move the conductor, right? The conductor seemed to be very firm and he pointed out to his order, right? Uh, do you think uh, it's only for this reason that the lady next tried to rationalize her denial? You can very well understand that. You can very well understand that I think so. So let me just know if you have anything else going on in your mind. Now it's time to move on. Question number 16. Tricky question. How far can one argue verbally if she or he has a bad cough? Well, I'm sure you would agree. It's not very likely for one to argue verbally if she or he has a bad cough, right? Time to continue our reading. The conductor pulled the bell and the bus stopped. This bus doesn't go on until the dog is brought out. He stepped onto the pavement and waited. It was his moment of triumph. He had the law on his side. Everybody in the bus was on the side of the lady and the dog. They talked in raised voices. Shameful! Call the police! Let's all report him. Let's make him give us our fares back. Yes, that's it. Let's make him give us our fares back. The little animal sat blinking at the dim lights, unconscious of the trouble he had caused. Are you wondering why the bus stopped when the conductor pulled the bell? Well, it's a signal system, right? Still used at many places by the conductors to signal the bus drivers to stop if it's moving or to move if it's standing still at some stop or halt, right? This bus doesn't go on until the dog is brought out. Well, I have I have made a note of this just to point out that in time clauses with linkers like when, after, and until, we often use present tense to refer to the future. Until the dog is brought out means until and unless someone takes the dog out in future, referring to future time, right? This bus will not go. Here we have this bus doesn't go to refer to habitual present, meaning whenever there is a pet like a pet dog inside the bus, this bus won't move. You get the point clear? Stepped onto the pavement, meaning went and stood upon the pavement. Pavement is footpath. Triumph means victory. He had the law on his side. So having the law on somebody's side means being lawful, right? I have the law on my side. That means what I am being is being lawful. I'm not doing anything illegal or I'm not doing anything that is going against the law. Raised voices, loud voices. Let's all report him. To report somebody means to complain against the person. Let's make him give us our fares back. So when we make somebody do something, we compel the person, we force the person to do something. Blink. Now, blink, mostly used as a regular verb, means to close and open one's eyes closely, right? Or to flash light on and off quickly. It is also used as a noun when it refers to time. Like I can say, I can make you understand this in a blink. That means in a very short time, right? Do you get that? Dim light. So dim, it's obviously functioning as an adjective, meaning not bright. Unconscious, unaware, not knowing. Time to answer questions again to see if we have comprehended this part of the text well. Question number 17. Why did the conductor stop the bus? The conductor stopped the bus to pressurize the lady to take her dog out of the bus. For, stopping the bus would certainly be an inconvenience to the other passengers who would then go against the lady carrying the dog illegally. Do you get the point? It was his moment of triumph. Question number 18. Whose moment of triumph it was? Who thought the moment to be a moment of triumph? Well, it was the conductor's moment of triumph. The narrator thought the moment to be a moment of triumph for the conductor. It's not the conductor's opinion, right? It's the narrator's commentary. Question number 19. Did the conductor's plan work? As you can see, the conductor's plan didn't work. Unfortunately, though, right? Now we need to answer a tricky question. The conductor was being lawful, right? He had the law on his side. But all the passengers went against him. They were for the lady and the dog. Were they being unlawful? Technically speaking, they were being unlawful. But they were the people for whose convenience the law was there. And they were ready to let it go. So, there is some sense herein as well. The next question is a no-brainer. Why do you think the passengers talked loudly? It's easy, right? Yeah, the passengers talked loudly because they were agitated. Question number 22. What did the passengers plan to do to teach the conductor a lesson? The passengers planned to call the police, complain against the conductor, and to make him give them their fares back. Please note how I have listed all the actions together in a single sentence just by using comma and the most common conjunct and, right? Now again we have a intriguing question. We have an intriguing question, right? The little animal sat blinking at the dim lights, unconscious of the trouble he had caused. Whose comment is this? Easy. Nothing intriguing here. Do you agree with the speaker here that the dog had caused all the trouble? If you disagree, who then had caused the trouble? Well, this is of course the narrator's comment, and I don't think that the dog had caused all the trouble. So if you disagree with me, you need to drop your comments down there in the comment section. And I personally feel that it was the young lady who was carrying the dog uh, caused the entire trouble. She could have avoided carrying the dog in the very first, if possible. Else, she could have tried to negotiate this, I mean, carrying the dog with the conductor and the other passengers, rather than behaving the way she behaved. It's not always possible for us to go by the rule, right? But if we need to break the rule for some convenience, of course, then we need to rationalize the situation and we need to seek permission from the concerned authority. That's how decent society should work. This is my personal opinion. I will be waiting eagerly for you to speak up your minds. Time to resume our reading. The conductor came to the door. Some passengers demanded, "Give us our fares back. You have engaged to carry us. You can't leave us here all night." "No fares back," said the conductor. Two or three passengers got out and disappeared into the night. The conductor turned on the pavement, went to the driver to have a talk with him. Another bus, the last on the road, went by. It seemed indifferent to the shouts of the passengers to stop. A policeman strolled up and looked in at the door. The passengers burst out with indignant protests and appeals. "Well, he's got his rules, he said genially. Then he went away to stand a few yards down the street. There, he was joined by two more constables. Time for vocabulary again. So, what might be the meaning of this particular phrase? You have engaged to carry us. It means you have promised to carry us, right? Indifferent means unconcerned. If you are not paying attention to this, you are being indifferent to this. Stroll. Now, stroll, if you are using the word as a noun, it means a leisurely walk. I will be going out for my evening stroll soon, right? It can also be used as a regular verb, to walk leisurely, the way it has been used in the text, right? Strolled up means came close or approached leisurely, walked and came close. Burst out. It's again a regular verb phrase, right? means to protest and to appeal violently. It's very evident from the use of the word burst in it, right? That it's violent, indignant, angry. I'm in a very indignant mood right now. That means I am very angry right now. I'm not actually. Appeal. Now, it can be used both as a noun as well as a regular verb. Noun, a strong request. Regular verb, to request strongly, right? This is a word that you will come numerously in the legal domain and as well as in the cricket field, right? I'm pretty sure you have noticed how the bowlers appeal to the umpires, right? Genially, cheerfully. Genial, adjective. Cheerful, adjective. Genially, adverb. Cheerfully, adverb. Please note the suffix ly. Years. It's a unit of length from the FPS system. It's equal to 3 feet, right? Time to answer these questions to check our reading comprehension. Can you guess why did the conductor come to the door? Well, I guess he came to read the reaction of the passengers inside. What do you think? Next question. How far do you think that the passengers were right in pointing out that the conductor had no right to leave them there instead of taking them to their destination? Interesting, right? I think the passengers were right in pointing out that the conductor had no right to leave them there instead of taking them to their destinations. After all, they certainly had paid their fares, as we can fairly assume, and they were not to be detained for somebody else's fault. But, but again, they supported the offender. So it's really a difficult conclusion to conclude. So obviously, the course of our discussion leads us to question number 26. Was the conductor justified in his denying the fares back to the passengers? I don't think that he was justified in his denying the fares back to the passengers, particularly when he was not taking them to their destinations as promised, right? But again, all the passengers had by then turned to be the violators of the law by supporting the lady with the dog, right? Well, social issues are always this tricky and difficult to conclude. So let's move on to the next question. Why do you think some passengers left the bus and went away? This one seems to be pretty easy, right? I think they left the bus and went away either for their destinations being quite close or to find some other means of transport. I think, yeah, this should be fine assumptions for us uh, to think why they left the bus and went away, right? Let's answer a few subjective questions again. Would you have stopped your bus for the stranded passengers if you had been driving the last bus? What do you think? And why? Of course. Yeah, if I had been the driver, I would certainly have stopped for the stranded passengers to see if I could help them and also to check if I could help my colleagues in charge of the other bus, particularly because I'm driving the last bus on the route, right? I would have acted more responsibly, right? Next question. How do you feel about the policeman feeling amused about the situation and doing nothing about it? Well, I feel very unfortunate about it. I wish they had intervened and settled the issue fast. You see, it was quite a petty issue at first, but now it's turning uh, more grave as time is passing. So it's really very unfortunate that even the policemen, they didn't intervene. Shall we move on then with our reading? Phil, the little dog blinked at the lights and the conductor walked to and fro like a captain in the hour of victory. A woman passenger's voice rose above the gale, threatening the bus conductor, but he was cold as the night and hard as the pavement. She expressed her anger to the three policemen who stood up the street watching the drama. Then she came back, called her companion, and vanished. The bus was emptying. "I'll go to the top," said the young lady with the dog, at last. "You'll have pneumonia," the man said. When she had disappeared up the stairs, the conductor came back and pulled the bell. The bus went on. He stood triumphant while his conduct was criticized in his face by the passengers. Still the little dog blinked. Still is a very important linker, and we need to understand how it is used. In continuation, in while referring to some situation being continued, right? Like I can come up and say, "I asked him not to go till he went." So the context is very clear. I didn't want him to go, but he went, defying my instruction. I can just say, "Still it's raining." Again, here I refer to the context subtly, right? The moment I say, "Still it's raining," I make it very clear that I didn't want it to rain. I ate, I have eaten a lot, till I am hungry, right? So the the condition of being hungry hasn't changed, though I have eaten a lot, right? So you can practice using still in different contexts, or you might read text to find how still is being used in different contexts. It's very important, a linker for all of us to understand how we might use it, right? To and fro. Uh, Walking to and fro, it refers to moving forward and backward continually. Sometimes it also refers to moving sideways, right? Not just forward and backward, but also sideways. Gale. Gale means strong wind, noun of course. Threaten, regular verb. You know, to express one's intention to hurt, right? And noun form threat, cold as the night and hard as the pavement. See, it's a wonderful expression, right? To mean that the conductor was indifferent, right? Not paying attention. You could just have used half of the phrase, like just cold as the night, that also means indifferent. Hard as the pavement, that also means indifferent. Here, the author has used both the phrases together to emphasize the degree of indifference, right? Like he just wanted to mean that the conductor was being very indifferent, right? Companion means partner. Pneumonia, a type of sickness where you get your lung infected. Yeah, pulmonary infection. Pulmonary is basically the adjective form of lungs. Triumphant. So earlier we have learned about the word triumph, noun. Now we get triumphant, adjective, means victorious. Criticized in his face means to criticize aggressively, right? He was criticized in his face. He was criticized quite aggressively. Remember, don't use the preposition on. So if you criticize me on my face, that means you are criticizing my face. But if you criticize me in my face, that means you are criticizing me quite aggressively, right? Time to answer our questions again. The conductor walked to and fro like a captain in the hour of victory. Do you think he was able to sense his victory, and why? Of course, you have to refer to your reason. I think he was able to sense his victory, particularly because he already had gained the moral support from the policeman who came in earlier to inquire, right? So let's move on to the next question, question number 31. Do you think that the angry woman who couldn't shout enough to influence the conductor could move the three policemen? No, she couldn't. It's unfortunate again, right? She couldn't move the conductor, she couldn't influence the policeman either. Why do you think the lady finally agreed to go to the top of the bus? Well, I think she finally agreed because she found no other way to combat the situation. She must have been feeling quite helpless by then, right? Question number 33. You will have pneumonia, the man said. Do you feel the man was earnest in his concern? No, not at all. Had he been concerned, he himself would have proposed to go to the top with the dog, right? When you are accompanying your sick partner, you always take care of your partner, right? And you try to protect your partner from all the oddities, right? If you are concerned, of course. So now let's move on to the next question. Question number 34. How do you feel for the lady at this point? I feel pity for her at present, particularly because she had companions who perhaps didn't care much for her, and that's truly unfortunate, if you ask me. Okay, how do you feel for the conductor at this point? I feel the conductor to be an egoist at this point, who might go to any extent to establish whatever he felt right, right? That's how egoists function, right? Now, how justified do you think are the passengers in criticizing the conductor harshly, in his face, aggressively? Well, they were detained for long and they were under stress, but still, nothing justifies harsh or rude or violent behavior. So, if you ask me, I won't say that they were justified in criticizing the conductor harshly. They could have criticized, right? But it was not appropriate for them or anybody to criticize harshly, to be harsh or rude. Do you get my point? Now, a very important question. Do you think the narrator took part in criticizing the conductor? I don't think he did. He tells us that the passengers criticized the conductor, right? Had he taken part, he would have used the pronoun us instead of the noun passengers. So, when being an passenger, he refers to the others as passengers, he is not including himself. Do you get the logic? Let's resume our reading once again, right? Then the bus developed engine trouble, and the conductor went to the help of the driver. It was a long job. Meanwhile, the lady with the dog stole down the stairs and re entered the bus. When the engine was put right, the conductor came back and pulled the bell. Then his eye fell on the dog, and his hand went to the bell rope again. The driver looked round. The conductor pointed to the dog, and the bus stopped. The whole struggle began all over once again. The conductor walked on the pavement, the little dog blinked at the lights, the lady again declared that she wouldn't go to the top, and finally went. Getting complicated, right? Let's discuss the difficult words and phrases first. The bus developed engine trouble. It's just a way to say the bus broke down due to some engine failure. But the next phrase is really very poetic. The conductor went to the help of the driver. We might have said just, the conductor helped the driver. We mostly use the word help as a regular verb. But just note here the author hasn't used any fancy word or phrase. He has just used this very common word help, not in its regular way of being used as a verb, but as a noun. So instead of saying the conductor helped the driver, he has said the conductor went to the help of the driver. Do you get the point? Next, it was a long job. Well, a job, when we refer to the job as lengthy, we mean that it takes a long time to do the job, right? Meanwhile, in the meantime, right, the time when another event is happening, stole down the stairs. Come down secretly, right? To come down the stairs or steps secretly, being unnoticed. The engine was put right. So when you put something to its right condition, you fix it, you repair it, right? The engine was fixed or repaired. His eye fell on. His eye rested upon. We have come across this typical phrase earlier, right? Means, yes, he saw. The driver looked round. Means the driver looked for or searched for an answer, obviously, right? The whole struggle began all over once again. Whole means entire. Began all over means began or started from the very beginning. This is quite an interesting phrase that you might like to remember. The, I would certainly ask you to note the next sentence, right? Item number 65. The conductor walked on the pavement, the little dog blinked at the lights, the lady again declared that she would not go to the top and finally went. You are to note the brevity achieved in here, how brief the description is, right? You have earlier noticed how long it took for us to know about the entire happening. And now, when we know, the author is just, through the narrator, of course, letting us know that the entire thing got repeated, and that too just in a sentence. And what he has done particularly for this, to achieve this, he has come up with a list, right? A simple list of all the actions, simply separated by commas, have served the trick. So you need to understand how to incorporate lists in your sentences. right? It's a very useful tool for expression. Time to answer some questions. Question number 38. Possibly the lady sneaked in again due to the extreme cold out there at the top of the bus. What would have you done had you been at her place? Well, this is a debatable question for sure. If I had been at her place, I would have come down too, right? But not secretly. I would have approached and requested the conductor to let me in for the sake of humanity. I might have gone for an argument again, but certainly without his permission, I wouldn't have entered the bus again, delaying the entire transit. Now, herein, you need to know that still we have double decker buses at places, right? So maybe uh, here, wherein the narrator was traveling, they might have rules not to carry their pets inside the bus, but they could have or they might have carried their pets on the top, right? Which probably was not a very welcoming part in the cold night, right? Therefore, probably the lady was not very eager to go there. Another debatable question. Would you have spared the lady with the dog this time if you had been the conductor? Well, I'm not sure how you are going to answer, but I have my answer ready for you. I might have spared her this time because I already had made her accept the rule she was not ready to abide by at least for once. So, my ego is satisfied to some extent. And there weren't many passengers left to feel inconvenience for the presence of the dog, right? So that's what the rule is made for. The reason behind the rule that is in question is not uh, very strong anymore, and it must have been too cold up there. So I try to be a little bit humanitarian. So, what's your answer? Now it's time to complete our reading, right? Let's read the final part of the text. The bus was soon empty, and I was the last passenger left behind. I've got my rules, the conductor said to me. He had won his victory, but felt that he would like to justify himself to somebody. Rules, I said, are necessary things. Some are hard and fast rules, like the rule of the road, which cannot be broken without danger to life and limb. But some are only rules for your guidance. Like that rule about the dogs, you can use your common sense here. They are meant to be observed in the spirit, not in the letter. For the comfort of the passengers, you have kept the rule but broken its spirit. You should mind your rules with a little goodwill and good temper. He took it very well, and when I got off the bus, he said, "Good night," quite amiably. Hard and fast means fixed, that cannot be changed easily, right? Life and limb is a phrase, means life and physical health, right? Limb doesn't mean just your arms and legs, right? To be observed in the spirit, not in the letter. A very important phrase to understand. To be followed essentially, to get the essence, not literally, right? So you have to understand something and then uh, proceed. Mind your rules with a little goodwill and good temper. So, what might it mean? Following something with a little goodwill and good temper? Follow your rules in a friendly and pleasant manner. Good temper, pleasant manner, goodwill, well, in a friendly manner. Amiably. Well, adverb, as you can very well understand by the suffix ly at the end, meaning in a pleasant and friendly manner. Amiable, adjective, means pleasant or friend-like or a friendly person. Now, amiable and amicable, they get you. We often get confused with these two. Both mean pleasant and friendly, and both function as adjectives. Remember, amiable is used for people, and amicable is used for situations, for relationships. Like, he is quite an amiable person. We won't say he is an amicable person. That would be so inappropriate, right? But we will say it was an amicable settlement for us. We won't say it was an amiable settlement. That would again be very inappropriate. Do you get my point? Time to answer the questions. Question number 40. Do you have any idea why the conductor needed to justify himself to the narrator for his action? Very important. Well, I think he needed to justify himself because though he had the support of the law, he didn't get any social support for himself. Now, being uh, a social animal, we cannot live without uh, any social acceptance, right? So he was clearly looking for social acceptance of his behavior. Why do you think rules are made for? Use your common sense here. Well, I think the rules are made for the convenience of the society, ruling out chaos as much as we can, right? It obviously helps us to function in an efficient way, right? Just think of the traffic rules. If we don't abide by the traffic rules, then obviously the traffic condition gets chaotic, and it's impossible to use the roads, right? Next, do you agree with the narrator on what he thinks about rules? I do totally agree. Rules are made for the convenience of the people, and if needed, rules can be broken for the better convenience of the people. It's time to conclude our session now, but before we conclude, I would like to tell you that you haven't read a story, right? It seemed like a story, but it's not. It's actually an essay. It's written by the famous essayist A.G. Gardner, and he chose All About a Dog as the title for his essay, right? And this text that we have read is the adapted version of the original essay, right? We have collected this essay, this adapted version from the English textbook for class 9, West Bengal Board of Secondary Education. If you are interested, you can find the original text on the internet, right? You might be wondering, how come an essay seemed to be like a story? Well, A.G. Gardner's essays mostly feel like stories. They are far from being formal and boring, possibly essays, right? Why? for the simple reason that he used anecdotes, right? Tales of various incidents uh, to engage his readers, uh, to find the main point of discussion without struggling through boring formal discourses. I'm pretty sure the way A.G. Gardiner has written this text, you certainly have by now understood what the essay is all about. So let's think about the main aspect the author wants us to focus upon in this particular essay. It's certainly not the dog, right? Then why do you think Gardiner chose his title, this title, all about a dog? Is there any reason? Obviously, there is a reason, right? To keep things more engaging, right? For the sake of the ordinary readers. Would you like to add a new title to the same text? If you ask me, I would have chosen How to Administer Rules Amiably. Because, yes, uh, well, I needed to make a correction. I had typed amiably instead of amicably. As I have explained earlier, you can very well understand why we need to use the word amicably here, right, instead of amiably. So I would have chosen How to Administer Rules Amicably because you must be agreeing with me that that's the essay is all about, right? How to uh, consider the essence of these rules, these social rules that are not hard and fast, but are more like directive principles for our regular functioning. I hope you enjoyed the session together, and yeah, we will certainly meet again sometime later with some other text. Till then, goodbye.